Good morning. My name is Natalie. Welcome to Orchard Park Secondary School, home of FRC Team 2056. If you have any questions throughout the day, please feel free to ask me. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Selena N, from Team 2056, presenting the sponsorship outreach.
Thank you for that. I'm just gonna start off by introducing myself. My name is Selena N, and this is my 4th year on Team 2056. My involvement on this team surrounds awards, like awards writing, and I do a lot of outreach, like I do a lot of outreach coordination. So I organize the FLL events, I do elementary outreach, and I kind of brainstorm and then kind of like I organize all of that stuff. So last season I was safety captain as well because I was really involved with around all the team, and I try to help out wherever I can. So I do a lot. I just kind of I'm an all-rounder. So I do some fabrication, I do some programming. I try to help us as much as I can, really. Something about myself is that I love hackathons. I think they're a great event to go to, and essentially what a hackathon is basically a coding competition where students come together to create cool projects. And I've been to 7 the past year. I've also organized 5 hackathons, which do involve a lot of sponsorships because you have to raise money to run the event. And yeah, so the biggest hackathons I've ran was Scrapyard Hamilton, which was a satellite event that had over, I think, 60 events around the world. And I also organized Hammer Hacks, which was a hackathon at McMaster. So a lot of my presentation is going to be surrounding Scrapyard Hamilton because it was a hackathon I ran by myself. So I had to raise all the sponsorships for that. Just a disclaimer that I don't actually do a lot of sponsorships for Team 2056, but a lot of their strategies are very similar to what I do. A lot of these the tips I'm sharing throughout my presentation is what I've learned throughout my independent sponsorship outreach, what I did for Scrapyard Hamilton. But so don't try to think that this directly aligns with Team 2056. Before you start your sponsorship outreach, I really recommend having these 4 things: a prospectus. And if you don't know what a prospectus is, it's basically a document outlining what your initiative is and the sponsorship details within it. So your tiers and what the company benefits from it. I also recommend having a slide deck, which is used for presentations when you're pitching your I'm just gonna say team because a lot of you guys are probably doing sponsorships for your FRC team or any FIRST team. And then I would also recommend having email scripts and phone scripts. Phone scripts is all right because if you're speaking on the phone, you don't want to sound like you're like robotic and just reading off like a screen. So I would rather have an outline for a phone script. But most of my presentation is probably going to go over email scripts because those are really important if you're just cold emailing. So this is the prospectus I use for Scrapper Hamilton. It's really simple. Your prospectus should have your contact details. So if they are interested in sponsoring or want to know more information, that you should have your contact details very, very easy to find on your prospectus. It's also important to like kind of describe who personally, like, I don't have a lot of family or friends that are in like higher positions in companies, but I know that personal connections go very far. Um, so if you know someone's working at any company, it could be anything, just reach out because you never know what could happen, really. Um, so this is actually an email I wrote for my venue. So hackathons need to have a venue for people to take place. So this is a outreach email I sent. It was a really cold email. I didn't know who I was writing to, and I'm just gonna kind of like depict every part I wrote in that email and what made it really effective. So the subject line, very, very important because it's the first thing they see in their inbox. So treat it as a hook. So we want like flashy words. We want something that brings attention. So a really good way is to actually put their company in the headline, so like they know what this is about. Um, so like bring together future innovators at whatever venue I was talking about. So it doesn't necessarily imply that I'm trying to start a hackathon right away. It just brings them curiosity of like what is in the email, so they actually open it. Yeah. So after that, it might your first sentence should be introducing yourself. So first of all, if it's polite, you don't want to like go into an email saying like I want money. You want to know, you want to develop that connection with that person first. So I explained who I am, especially like that I'm a student. I know companies, when I was reaching out to cold emails afterwards, they were like, "Oh, usually when it's like a adult, like I would just ignore it." But sorry, but since it's coming from youth, since it's coming from a student, I was more implied to help out and stuff. So especially for students, please like specify that you are one because it's actually more persuading when it's coming from youth. Yeah, and I just added some more context of who I am, so it's more so I'm more credible. So yeah. I'm sorry that if the text is really small. I didn't know how to make it bigger. But talk about what you're actually doing. You don't want them to like wonder like why do they need my help if I don't know what I'm trying to support. So try to get to like your request really quickly. So you don't want to like lead them on with like a entire like description of like why you need their help, but you don't actually explain what your cause is. So I was just talking about the hackathon like scrapyard and giving them more context on what the event is and try to make it as interesting as possible. So it's like so they're not what's it called? So they're not boarded out while they're while you're reading their email. For FRC teams, I guess I would talk about like where your team is based and like what makes you unique about your team. So yeah. Then you want to like ask really quickly. So please don't write like a whole description or like an entire history of your team. Please be really direct. So just ask like what you want from them and be very be very direct because when you're emailing them back and forth, you need to have really clear communication with them, so they don't so they have a better idea of like what you want. So yeah, so in this email I asked for a venue. I wasn't like asking them for money necessarily, but the venue was the biggest part of my outreach at this time. So it was very like direct. Mhm. So yeah, that was the email, and I actually got this venue right away when I got this email, which is really cool. It also was because I had a personal connection to the manager, as in like she went to high school with my sister. But like by writing this request like very concisely, I was able to get a response really quickly. So that was great. Oh yeah, before you send an email, make sure you correctly address the person and company. I've like made a mistake that I've like copy and pasted it from another like email, and then I accidentally left the name in there or I left the company in there, so it really looks inconsiderate, and that's a really bad way, or like it's a really bad way to lose a sponsorship because you are like not being considerate of the company. Yeah, and please schedule emails at certain times. I actually had a sponsor criticize me that I sent an email at like 2 a.m. but he still gave me the sponsorship, which is really nice of him. But yeah, please, like, the best time to schedule emails is at like in the morning, so like 8 a.m. like on Mondays, because companies get emails all the time. So when you're checking in the morning, they'll see your email first thing, first thing. So it's easier to get a response that way. And don't, like, for your first email, do not attach any links or files, because I've learned that like those emails will go straight to spam because they have a file or a link. Yeah, so because some companies have those protections and stuff. So like if you're sending a prospectus, like in your first email, that's probably why you're not getting a lot of responses, because they're going straight to spam. Yeah. So after you send that first email, follow up at least 4 times, because a lot of people, again, I say it, like, a lot of people probably email that inbox. So as if you keep you keep emailing, the more you pop up in your inbox and the more they'll respond. For my first sponsorship, I had to actually email them, I think, 5 times for them to actually get a response, and then got that sponsorship. Because uh, like, realistically, a lot of people are busy and they tend to forget a lot of times. So following up is just a good way to check into them. Even if it's like a rejection, it's nice that they still acknowledge that you that they acknowledge that you tried asking. Um, So like it could be like a really quick sentence, like, "Hey, like, how are you? Like, do you have any progress on our request?" Or like, "I was just checking in, like, how, um, I was just checking in and like how you're, like, if you reached out to anyone else." So this was like a more personal one, and I actually got a lot more responses with this one, because it just made me feel like, it just made me seem like more of like a person, because I was referencing like a event, and I was just being more friendly. So yeah. So this was a final email that was like I was really struggling to get sponsorships at this time, because I think the event was like 2 weeks away and I got like no money. So I this is like the final push of like my outreach and stuff. So for my what's it called? Yeah, for my subject line, I did like put last chance, because it seems more limited, so they are more inclined to open it because they think something is like really urgent. And yeah, so I kind of, in my email, I kind of said, like, I was being really transparent and stuff, and that's really good. Be transparent with your sponsors, because most people are very reasonable. They're not going to be like really mean about it. It's actually better if you're transparent with them, or try not to sugarcoat anything, because they understand that you are a nonprofit, and that there is a lot of logistics and like struggles within it. So it's better to be more transparent with them than just try to like sugarcoat like your situation, because they'll be more inclined to help. Yeah. So I've actually got a lot of rejections by doing this, but however, do not take rejection as a no, or don't take no as a no, which is a very bad way to think about it. But do most companies do want to help? They just don't. They just can't at that time, or they don't have enough resources to. So I always follow up if they can give us any in kind sponsorship. So a lot of companies like really like my idea, but they couldn't help out like monetarily. So another thing I asked for was prizes, which was, since it was a competition, that I did need funds for prizes, so it's still kind of a sponsorship. So actually got a lot of prizes for doing this. So I got like a entire game console with like Sonic the Hedgehog, which is really cool, and I got a Polaroid camera that was shipped to me. I got a lot of prize vouchers, and it's not really relevant if you're doing FRC or any like first team, because but if you do like events like raffles, you can raise money by giving out prizes, or you can find other ways you can use that kind of donation to help raise money for your team. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Yep. Mhm. Oh yeah. So a lot of companies actually really like they like branding, they like promotion, they promotional stuff. So like my first tier was to give them a social media like a social media post. But we do like they sponsor, like companies really like their brand to be out there. So another way you can give them support is by putting their company name on your FRC name as well. I know that we read sponsorships like for our competitions, but we also display them at our pitch screens. We also do we volunteer for the events as well. We do a lot. We invite them a lot to our conference or any events, outreach events they do. Not just because it's a sponsorship perk, but it's just something that they can well, it's just an invite to get to know our team more, so they're more inclined to sponsorship, to have a more sustainable connection, so they can sponsorship in the future. What's another thing we did? I know that for hackathon specifically, they like to give out more. They like to promote uh, their own brand, and they like going to our events to see what we do. And yeah, a lot of companies will just ask to be presented on your website, or maybe your pit screens, or maybe like if you have like a banner, they would like to be presented there. It really depends on your team what you can give, essentially, but a lot of it is branding and promotional marketing for their own company. I send it after. So you would have to I would ask if they can first, and then send them more details later on, because just like I said before, you don't want to send them any links or files um, on the first email, because it will probably end up in spam, or you don't want to overwhelm them with too much information if you're like when you're asking it, because you don't want to like demand it. Essentially, you want it to come from them. You want to have them to reach out to give us support. Essentially, you want it to, yeah. Yeah, no worries. Anyone else have questions? Yep.
Yeah, I'm curious if you had better luck with, big businesses, Best Buy, the entire retail chain, small businesses, local communities, and if your strategy was different. If you were trying to talk to Best Buy or the local discount.
So I have experience with both, like outreaching to both sides. I actually like some local companies more, because they actually see that it's local youth that need this help, they need the support, then rather than big corporate companies. They're just like, oh, this community doesn't really relate to me, since we're such a huge chain. But I would like, if you're reaching out to Best Buy, I would actually reach out to like specific locations than the bigger like the corporate one, because most of the time they don't do sponsorships, because there it seems like a bias. But I've actually gotten a sponsorship for Best Buy, but it was in kind sponsorship. So they gave me like, I think it was like $150 worth of prizes, which is really cool. So it actually contacts like local stores instead, and then instead of like the big or ones, because I contacted like companies like what Canadian Computers, like Canadian Tire, those companies that you mentioned, and they don't do sponsorships for like community teams like that. And if they do, it's a whole other form, and then you're competing with a bunch of other people who are trying to get those sponsorships as well, right? So yeah. Yep.
I can actually as a sponsor. They sometimes these really large companies have formal, right? And that's the big. So last year, they some type of stimulated when they are local store wasn't getting. That's why.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, for us.
hmm
On that, you talk about grants. Did you end up applying for grants? Like, how did that?
With this, for like hackathons, we didn't have any time. Because like the event was in 2 months, and like a lot of it takes months when you apply it because they have to look through all the applications. They have to set up like they have to select them, and it's really hard. So like I personally didn't try to go for any grants because it would just take too long. But like if you're trying to like raise money like fast, like emailing and cold emailing is probably going to be the most effective because you don't have to write a whole application. You can just reach out to them if they're interested. You can set up like an agreement or like a formal a sponsorship, like um, a donation and stuff. But I also want to emphasize like students doing sponsorships because in my experience I've like when I cold email for like cold email for like invitations or any volunteer or like any sponsorships, they always tell me that like it's really great what youth are doing, and that's what made them respond to you more is by having actual students reach out instead of like older older mentors or parents, because they think they actually talk to the people who it influences or impacts the most. So I really push like students to do sponsorships more because they are more like they're more inclined to respond to you because they think what you're doing is really cool. Any other questions? Yep. Yeah. So like for hackathon specifically, it should be, but like at first, like if you do like FRC, it probably will be a little bit lower because I know that like FRC is very costly and having that number on there is more intimidating. But I would still suggest you put that sponsorship there anyways, because not because you think a company is going to sponsor that, but having it as an option so they can see what the other tiers offer, and they're more inclined to sponsoring like a lower tier or like giving any support at all. Yep.
How much like remind me, how much the budget was for hackathon, like what they kind of expenses were for it, like what.
It was it really depends because I ran a 24 hackathon for 50 people, so I had to pay for like lunch, dinner, and breakfast. But I've also ran like a 12-hour hackathon that had 150 people, but we only had to pay for lunch and like dinner. So it really depends like your range of like how much you have to raise. I think for the smaller one, I had to raise I think 2,000 because I also had to pay for like supplies and like all that. But with our other one, I think we raised like $12,000 to run that one because it cost like the venue costs for McMaster, and we had to get catering for it from through McMaster as well, which is pretty expensive. So it really depends like on your budget. Like create your budget first, and then your sponsorship tiers will come after, kind of thing. For the smaller one, the McMaster, it wasn't necessarily free, but they McMaster did sponsor the venue. So we didn't pay anything out of pocket, but they still gave us that I think $2,000 or $3,000 to run that event. What time is it? 9? Oh, really? Yeah. Sorry, I didn't rehearse this, so I didn't know how long my presentation was gonna be. But yeah, I've done a lot of like what's it called, email roasts, and I've gone to a lot of sponsorships workshops to learn this kind of stuff. So if anyone has like sponsorship emails or like any scripts you want me to look over, I could help you like kind of refine those. But yeah, sorry, I didn't really know how long my presentation was gonna be. Yeah, for those who came late, I also have stickers if you guys want.